Welcome to rSlash Am I the Butthole, where OP's wife is maybe in a cult with her therapist? Am I the butthole for telling my wife to marry her effing therapist because I am effing done? After our oldest was born, my wife decided to not return from maternity leave and be a stay-at-home mom. 6 months later, we started noticing missing milestones and other concerns. We expressed our concerns to his pediatrician, who said that milestones were just guidelines and not to worry. Around this time, my wife started to get anxious and frustrated more and more. She said something was wrong with our son and we needed to help him. We went to a second pediatrician who gave us take-home evaluations to do. They stressed out my wife, who said that she couldn't fill them out because she was afraid of accidentally answering wrong. I did my best to fill them out, but since she was a stay-at-home parent, I needed her help on certain parts because some questions were phrased. How many times per day does he such and such? And I needed information from her to answer that. She got very frustrated during this process and said that I wasn't supporting her. The pediatrician diagnosed our son as autistic when he was almost 2. My wife was upset by this, and the pediatrician recommended that she see a therapist. As parents of autistic children sometimes struggle, especially the parent who spends the most time with the child. In some ways, that's the last time I ever saw my wife. Her frustration and anxiety only got worse. She's a completely different person now. She only communicates in therapy speak, and she acts like her therapist is God and she is her prophet, carrying her commandments to me from on high. Defy them at my own risk. Here's an example of some of the insane things her therapist has apparently told her over the years. That our son is emotionally abusive. He was 3 when she said this, because he intentionally withholds affection. That I'm emotionally abusive because I canceled a date with her after she called me a loser and didn't want to spend the evening with her. That I'm sexually abusive because I told her I didn't want to have intercourse with her after an argument to punish her. Fights don't get me horny, but that's my fault, I guess. That I'm financially abusive because I told her I didn't think that we could afford another baby, which we ended up having anyway because she wore me down. That I'm physically abusive because I put my arm out to stop her from walking into the kitchen when I was sweeping glass off the floor. What? That our son is physically abusive because he accidentally kicked her while throwing a tantrum. He was 5. Those are just a few examples. I have more, but the post is already too long. As I mentioned, she wanted another baby. I thought that it was a bad idea. I've actually been trying to convince her to go back to work so she can afford specialized care for our son. But even bringing up that idea is, you guessed it, abusive. Well, we had the baby, which I thought was a bad idea, but that's in the past now. Our second son turns a year old soon, and for the past year, my wife has acted like our older son and I are the enemy forces against her and our younger son. She's no longer providing our older son with any care. I had to scale back at work so I could drop him off and pick him up from school, but that wasn't sustainable. We were bleeding money. I finally found an after-school program for him, which is expensive, but it allowed me to work the hours I need to. I told my wife that it's not fair to our older son to ignore him and treat him like he isn't around. Obviously, the baby needs more attention, but it's wrong not to give our older child any. It also isn't fair to me because I hardly ever get to interact with our younger child since I have to do all the care for our older child, and she always has the younger. She said her therapist told her that in a way our older son actually killed her first baby because he is the disease that replaced him? What? What did I just read? The autistic child killed her first baby because he is the disease that replaced him. Yo, this is bonkers. I said, I don't care about her therapist. This is about our family, and she's neglecting us. She said her therapist said that neglect was a weaponized term. I told her to marry her effing therapist because I am effing done. I told her I'm filing for divorce. She lost it when I said that. She said, she said I can't talk about her therapist like that. That I'm trying to alienate her from her support person, and that's abuse. I talked to my friend who's a lawyer to get a recommendation for a divorce lawyer, and he told me that it's a butthole thing to do to insult her therapist because therapy is important and it's not the therapist who told her to neglect our kid. Hopefully. This therapist ruined my marriage and turned my wife into a crazy person. How am I wrong for insulting that? But if my own friend disagrees, I guess I might need a reality check. You know what this sounds like? It sounds like a cult of one person. Oh man, I watched the documentary of that YouTuber. What was her name? The family YouTuber's name was like Ruby something. She came out that she was abusing her kids because she basically, more or less, entered a cult where she was the only member to this other crazy woman. And she just worshiped this crazy woman and did whatever this crazy woman told her to do. That's kind of what it sounds like here, even down to the child abuse. Yes, the woman's name was Ruby Frankie. You can find the documentary on Netflix if you want to watch it. It's an amazing watch, but pretty dark, to be honest. It sounds like the wife needs a therapist to escape the therapist. OP, I'm giving you 0 out of 5 buttholes. I'm giving the wife and her therapist 3.5 out of 5 buttholes, I think. Am I the butthole for believing my daughter and revoking her punishment after I heard the full story about why she got suspended from school? I'm a mom of a 13-year-old girl who was suspended from school last week. The school told me that she made an anti-Semitic remark to another student. I was horrified and grounded her immediately, taking away her phone, computer, and consoles. My daughter swore that she hadn't said anything anti-Semitic and that the boy accusing her was lying. At first, I wasn't sure what to believe. She had recently become friends with a Palestinian boy who moved here from Gaza about 2 years ago. He's a U.S. citizen because his mom worked here and became one before moving back, but he doesn't have many friends at school. My daughter befriended him and included him in her friend group despite the rest of them being only girls. This made me wonder if maybe she had been influenced and repeated something that she didn't fully understand. The school couldn't even tell me what was supposedly said. They told me that the boy who accused her refused to repeat it because it was extremely anti-Semitic. I called the boy's mother to apologize, but she wouldn't tell me what the words were either. Instead, she told me I needed to make sure my daughter stopped being friends with the Palestinian boy because he was a bad influence. That made me very uneasy. I decided to call the Palestinian boy's mom, and when I explained what was going on, she told me that her son had told her the same version of events as my daughter. According to both kids, they were walking together at recess when he was telling her about losing relatives back in Gaza, his aunts, uncles, and cousins. My daughter said, "That's horrible. I hate that they did that to your family." The other boy overheard part of the conversation, jumped in, and said that he was lying, and later accused her of making anti-Semitic remarks. After hearing both sides match, I realized I might have jumped to conclusions. I called the boy's mom back to explain that I was not going to punish my daughter anymore since the story didn't add up. I also apologized to my daughter for grounding her without being sure of the facts. Now I'm wondering if I handled this all wrong. On one hand, I wanted to take anti-Semitism very seriously. I'm technically Jewish myself, but non-practicing. And the school did conclude that she was wrong. On the other hand, it looks like my daughter was punished and suspended unfairly, and I may have reinforced that by reacting too harshly at first. And the admin of the school has a history of being a bit weird. This is in Tennessee. Am I the butthole for grounding her before knowing the full story and then reversing it once I believed her? Yo, suspending a kid for a mystery crime is crazy. Okay, what did the child do? Well, I'm not going to say what they did, but it was very, very bad. Okay, well, if you say it was very, very bad, then I totally agree with you. Let's suspend the child. What? Yo, imagine going to jail and you're sitting in the jail cell with your inmate. So, what are you in for? And you just have to be like, wow, shrug. I don't know. The jury found me guilty of ? That's crazy. The real villain of this story is the school for just buying the kid by saying, oh, it's anti-Semitic, I can't repeat it. What's stopping kids from just walking around saying, oh, well, that person should be suspended because, but I don't know, because I say so. Very weird story. OP, I do think I have to give you 0.5 out of 5 buttholes because I don't know why you just blindly assumed that the school was correct before even listening to your daughter first. Doesn't she get a chance to defend herself? Though in this situation, I am giving you credit for ungrounding her because it sounds like she doesn't deserve to be grounded here. I might even tell you to escalate the situation and sue the school because denying your child an education because of he said, she said is just bonkers. Am I the butthole for refusing to tell my mom who told me her husband isn't my dad? I'm a 16-year-old girl, and I've always wondered why my dad treated me differently to my siblings, a 15-year-old sister, a 12-year-old brother, and an 11-year-old brother. Even though me and my sister are just over a year apart in age, my dad would love on her and was super supportive of her and her interests. He was her cheerleader when she needed one, and he made sure to be there for all of her plays. He's the same with my brothers, but he's never been to any of my recitals. He's never showed an interest in the stuff that I liked. Whenever I went to him for cheering up, he brushed me off. And he spoiled my siblings by buying them toys, candy, or whatever, but he never got that stuff for me. When Mom wasn't home, I was either pushed to sleep at a friend's house or a family member's house, or he'd do a movie night or game night with my siblings and told me to stay in my room. I cried to my mom so many times about it, and she told me that he treated me that way because we were the most alike and we butted heads. But I've never fought him or disagreed with him. I never got the time with him to do any of that. So then, a relative told me a couple of months ago that he's not my biological dad. My mom was seeing him and my biological dad. My dad knew about my biological dad and said that he wasn't going to keep sharing her, so Mom chose him. And then, when she found out that she was pregnant, my dad said that she could keep me regardless, but if I wasn't his, he wanted a kid of his own. They DNA tested me, and I'm not his, so my sister was born so close to me because of that promise. After hearing the truth and seeing proof, I confronted my parents. He told me that now that I knew, I could start calling him Drake, his name, instead of Dad. My mom was not as yay she knows though. Y-A-Y. She's asked me every day, sometimes multiple times a day, who told me. She was pestered by several family members, to be honest, and she had no idea which of them said something, and I refused to tell. Even if it was disrespectful to do it behind her back, I'm glad that I found out now. It also opened up the truth that I have no college savings like my siblings, and Drake doesn't want me to stay a day after my 18th birthday. He said that I was never his, he never loved me, and he wants at least 1 year of just his family. All my mom cares about is finding out who told me. She tried to ground me, what the hell? And she told me I needed to say because nobody should tell a kid stuff like this without a parent knowing and being there. She said hiding who they are also makes them bad because they're encouraging a minor to keep stuff from a parent intentionally to avoid consequences for that person. So, am I the butthole? OP, you have actual scumbag parents. Your dad is effectively emotionally abusing you and neglecting you. And your mom has her head so far up her own butt that she can't even realize this is like a life-altering realization for you. And all she can focus on is finding out who told you so she can go yell at that person. OP, I recommend creating some emotional distance between you and your parents because I think once you turn 18, your relationship is really going to go downhill. That was rSlash Am I the Butthole, and if you like this content, check out my podcast where I publish the exact same episodes. Also, hit that subscribe button because I put out new Reddit videos every single day.